So the Ukiah Valley Sanitation District Special Meeting of Monday, March 16th, 2020. The time is 6:04. Can we stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, then roll call.
Chair Whip,
Here.
Vice Chair Marshall,
Present.
Director Walensky, here. Director Baca,
Here.
and Director McNally shall be showing it.
Okay, so, public expression. The board welcomes participation in the board meetings. Comments shall be limited to, so that everyone may be heard. This item is limited to matters under the jurisdiction of the board, which are not on the posted agenda, and items which have not already been considered by the board. The board limits testimony on these matters not on the agenda to 3 minutes per person, not more than 10 minutes for a particular subject at the discretion of the chair of the board. No action will be taken. Individuals wishing to address the board on items on the agenda will be given the opportunity to do so. When the item is addressed by the board limits the testimony on matters on the agenda to 3 minutes per person and not more than 10 minutes for a particular subject at the discretion of the chair of the board. Anyone wishing to speak, come to the podium and may state their name. No one, thank you. Okay, now we have discussion, which would be item 3, which would be discussion and possible action, direction to staff to initiate the Prop 218 process and adjust wastewater rates annually for a 5-year period, effective July 1st, 2020.
Do you guys want to have a conversation before we call Winksy? Is it the pleasure of the board to call her? She's available if we want to have her part of the conversation. And staff recommendation that I think you should. She's
Yeah.
has some comments. And
Yeah, we'd like to hear comments, and we'd like her to hear our comments, so.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, the biggest discussion that we've had over this issue has been the accrual accounting, which booked the cash or the payments that the city owes us for to finish up the settlement of the lawsuit as we'd received them in an accrual accounting methodology. Well, that gives a skewed version of what our actual cash position is. And did we get a revised cash pro forma from Wing C on with all of the funds that we had to fund, Dave?
I'm sorry.
Did we get the
Page
revised cash flow pro forma?
Just the first 2 pages.
No.
Okay, so they backed out the payments that haven't been made by the city.
Are you ready for this?
They,
Okay, I'm going to put you on speakerphone. We have a full, well, the board's here with the exception of Teresa, she's on it, so I'm putting you on speakerphone. Thank you for doing this, we appreciate it.
So did you say they backed out or just haven't done it yet?
No,
No,
they took
they-
out the 4 million because the agreement
Hasn't
was
been paid yet.
we get it annually. So now it's back into that format, which is what it should be as far as a pro forma is for a rate study.
on the rate study.
So
Correct, that was on the
you're
rate.
saying
So
we don't
when you
have as
get
good a
this,
cash
You'll see.
position.
That it shows.
We're $4 million lighter than what was shown in that,
When
in
you get
that
this, it's
cash
a
flow
revised
forma.
one. So
Or
you'll
starting.
see
Okay.
they've taken it out in the
Wait,
first
what-
year.
Maybe we ought to just let Wing C explain
Yeah.
what's
let
been
them
done.
do- Yeah. there you go.
Hi there.
Hi, Wing C.
Hi.
So Wincy, are you on speakerphone or are you talking directly into the phone?
I'm talking directly into my cell phone.
Great, now it sounds a little bit better now.
Wait, is this?
Okay.
Okay, Wincy, so, I just explained that we did away with the accrual method and kind of went back to the cash basis on the payments that are being made by the city to the district. So we now show that this year we're going to receive 1 million rather than 4 million, right?
1,090,000 is the percentage.
Yeah, round numbers. So then, about that time, you came on and I said, okay, let's let Wing C explain the remainder
Of the changes.
of the changes.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that was definitely one of them on the revenue side. And then in terms of setting aside reserves, they did make that change with the rate stabilization fund, but we had them include that in fiscal year 20 as well. So that definitely significantly brings down the available cash for FY 20.
If you look at the second page that I gave you, you'll see it there. I'm sorry, line 37, 38, 39. Okay,
Yes.
sorry, Nancy. Go ahead.
So it's the same amount, so 2,776,399. And then the last thing that I keep going to do is conservatively add another 100,000 to legal fees, just for fiscal year 21. Given that there's still some criminal issues between the city and the district. So just to be conservative, the number looked a little bit low.
That's only the second page.
Okay, did everybody get that?
No. Say, can you say?
Okay, well, what we were gonna do is add $100,000 to the legal fees in 2021, which are $56,000, just so that, we don't, it distracts from our debt coverage ratio if we take it out of cash without it being allocated to operation and maintenance costs.
So it'll be 156,732.
I see it,
You
yeah.
see it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, now we're hoping that's $157,000 too much. Let's see where we end up. I think that we're gonna have legal expenses in some of the endeavors that we're going to have to address. The jail shouldn't be significant. Where the purple pipe's been brought up by the city as to how we're gonna share in the costs of that. I've tried to investigate what those costs would be, and I haven't been able to arrive at any succinct answer. I've called the plant operator who didn't return my call, the city engineer, and the individual that is in charge of operation and maintenance of the collection system. And
They may
come on in,
not-
Teresa,
I thought
join
it was
us.
6 million for the last phase.
No, we're talking about operation and maintenance, not.
No, it's probably more like 60 million.
The last phase?
Yeah.
To get to the golf course?
From where they are now.
I was just thinking when you said that, I bet they're putting it together now for their budget, so they may not know either.
I don't know.
So-
Nobody.
Quincy, the 2020, fiscal year 2020, so we won't have any rate stabilization fund for the first year? Why is that? The target is 0.
I'm sorry, can you say that again? For fiscal year 20?
She's talking about line 39.
Line 39 is 0 in fiscal year 2020, the rate stabilization fund target.
Yes. We've asked them to add that in there. He's already done that.
But why is it 0 for the first year?
Because he didn't add it in there.
We don't
It
have
shouldn't be.
the updated
He
one.
collected that now.
Oh, it shouldn't be, okay.
This is a
Okay.
mid-discussion one, so.
He's updated it for last week, but yeah, because he's already set aside the 2 million, so it should be reflected in fiscal year 20 as well.
Okay.
So that leaves the available cash at 701,000?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, and this is the estimated at the end of fiscal year 20. So, yeah.
Right.
So, I had a question why, why we need to change the rates to mimic the cities and take away our allowance. We have a lot of low-income people and the rates are gonna substantially go up. We could still do a revenue increase in 2021, but why do we have to get rid of the allowance? Just because their answer was it's an industry standard.
So that is certain business. Their opinion is that it does make sort of the joint business operate smoother. But it is a matter of the rate study presents it this way, and the rate consultants believe that it's a good nexus between the cost of delivering that service to that customer class and what you're charging that customer class. So we're really going to come back to whether the board agrees with that nexus, and or not. But there's no, it's really a board decision. If you're adopting the rate study, because you agree with their analysis.
I did an analysis of mine, for my house, and it's for HCF. And it'll go up, I think, I figured out, it'll go up 35 cents, something like that, a month.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't think that, I guess, if we go to there, we just blew 70,000 bucks on a rate study that nobody believes. That's my opinion of that course of action.
Well, something he said that I liked was that everything they did, they based it on compliance with Prop 218. So if we were ever challenged legally, it's defensible. And he said, I don't know how you came up with the rates you have, but this, was completely is compliant with Prop 218. So that gave me some peace of mind, but it also made me believe that maybe we were overcharging higher users and the city was overcharging lower users, and maybe now this is equity. Maybe it was off before and this is equitable, so.
I guess time will tell.
Right, that's the intent, right? The obligation is to provide backup on why you believe the rates and charges you're setting are reasonable and reflect the cost of service delivered to that customer class.
And I guess I never got an explanation of why over the next 5 years, the city is increasing its rates 11% and ours are 4%. What was the explanation for that, the need for that?
Well, one thing is we bought down
Our debt service is considerably lower.
we bought it down by 2.5 million. That
And
makes a difference.
They actually added to theirs.
They added 1.4
To pay us $1 million.
or 1.6 million to their debt service, and didn't pay the payment that was due on March 1st, that was another million something down the road. So basically, they increased their debt service by about what we reduced ours.
Okay.
Well, and that doesn't end up being pretty equal just because the district has 54% and 46.
Yeah.
But it has to do with the district is fully expecting additional settlement revenue, so that boosts the district's coverage. And so in terms of just looking overall at the requirements, the city is even targeting lower coverage than the district. But even so, when you take a look at their revenue requirements, in being required to cover all of that.
That kind of raises a question I had too, is why is their debt coverage lower than ours, that ratio? Ours
So
is
the rate
50 and theirs is like,
54 and 46 or something?
No, your debt coverage is based on your income against your debt,
and theirs seemed much lower than ours.
because they have,
And so the rate covenant is 1.2. Your required rate covenant is 1.2 for both the city and the district. But then the way they structure rate study is based on more what's the higher credit quality. Because generally 1.4, 1.5, and rate component is the same 1.5. So, but then you said, well, 1.4 is still very strong. So the district is still aiming for that 1.4 times coverage, but whereas the city chose to aim for 1.25 coverage, they ended up building up to much higher than that. But at least in the beginning, they felt that 1.25 was fine.
So we paid the 1.3, was it, or 1 point in March, on March 1st?
March 1st.
when the bonds refinanced, we took out the old bonds, and I believe that we made the payment on March 1st, Lindsay, on the new bonds with the proceeds.
Effectively, yeah. I mean, the city deducted what they would have paid on March 1 and put it into their side of the transaction.
But we paid ours effectively.
Effectively, yes.
That was my understanding, so we're current and in good standing. So, what other questions? I think that this now gives us a more realistic picture of what we have at present. I believe that the reason that I would suggest that we adopt this rate study for 1 year is that there's been questions of how we would participate in the Purple Pipe project, which in my investigation over the last few days, no one can really tell me what that may entail. Wing C sent Sage an email asking him what that might entail with no response today, Wing C?
No.
Okay, so that's a question we don't know. In a letter we received Friday from Sage, there was a statement that the city had applied with LAFCO to detach the overlap area. And, it was my understanding from conversations with Teresa previously, is that in order for them to accomplish that, they would have to do an EIR and prove that the district's not harmed in any way in order to accomplish that. So it's difficult to commit to further debt and participation in a project when our customer base could be cut in half. So there's a lot of moving parts here that we can't identify right now in order to commit to. It may be, if they're successful in detaching, we may have a totally different rate structure.
It's really half the customer base?
Half the customers.
Yeah.
Well, then all of our numbers would drop by that equal amount then, They would have to take over more debt, they would have to take
But
over more
if you,
O&M.
But-
if you look at the revenue projections based on what we have, it gets higher and higher and higher, so that means the revenue is more than the operational costs. So no, it wouldn't. It depends on, because we'd still have the same fixed cost. It's only the, costs that aren't fixed that we could say that about.
And it depends on what customers, in order to really get a handle on what would happen to the revenue in detachment, you have to go through every customer and figure out what that customer is and what the revenue they generate. Because it's quite a project. Do we embark on that? I mean, I think that's the city's responsibility to embark on that and prove to LAFCO that it works. My opinion is I don't think they'll be successful, but I think it will have too big of an impact on the district.
Well, last time, I think they tried to declare a negative declaration, and we had to keep an eye on that and call them on it.
And we
In order
may have to again.
Yeah, so that's something we do need to keep an eye on, and get updates from LAFCO. So what you're saying is you want to accept the first year of this rate study?
Yes.
Well, that,
And
so,
then
there was, so therefore, there was a 0 increase the first year, so therefore, we don't need to do any Prop 218 at this time. What we're doing is just kicking it down the road a year.
But it's
I think we
fiscal
do
year.
because the rates actually changed for the various
Yeah, the rate
customers.
structure change.
It's
The-
fiscal year, not
And we're not,
calendar year.
and we're changing the way,
Oh,
we're changing the rates to equal the city, which is
Not the rates, you mean the structure. of it.
rate structure
The
will
formula.
change.
Yes, the formula's
Yeah.
changed, so I believe we'd have to do a 218 notification. And I hope, my hope is that next year, we can adopt the rest of it.
Wait, so,
Maybe we get past the legal expenses, we get clarity of what the purple pipe costs are gonna be, and I have asked the question, the district chose not to participate in the purple pipe project. So that was before my time,
Yeah.
but the way I see it, if the district chose not to participate in that project and the city forged forward without the district, they were fully well intended to take care of those costs. But now I also believe that it's a benefit to the district because of the ability to get rid of the water that they have a hard time getting rid of.
Yeah.
And so I think there's gonna be additional treatment costs, but nobody could tell me what those would be.
I think they're figuring them out now.
And I tried to get a hold of the Alan that runs the plant, and he didn't call me back. So this is all going so fast, you get a date and we get an answer and we're not getting it.
at
So,
one point, we were told, yes, your sewer costs will increase. And the costs will increase to treat the water, and because it is going to plant, you will carry a burden of that.
yes,
Whether you approved it or not, because we are processing your water.
yeah,
So that is a known fact.
yeah,
So
and
that
that's fair.
costs that will increase.
That's the cost of doing
Yeah,
business.
exactly.
We-
We're just not paying to lay down pipes and,
We figured that they have to put that O&M into their budget for the purple pipe, for their budget also, so that at some point they're gonna come up with some numbers. We just haven't seen them yet. I just wanna add that, so now I feel a lot more confident in this because we do have the operating reserve, we do have the capital reserve, the rate stabilization fund now, even though it doesn't show here, it's in there. So that line, you were talking about at the meeting and it was like this, now it's like this.
yeah. Well, that didn't make any sense to me
No,
at all.
no, it
Why is the city's like that and ours is like that? And we have to increase our rates?
Well, what was so confusing was that some of that was in the pro forma, but it wasn't on that chart.
Yeah,
So that's why it
Yeah.
really looks strange.
yeah.
Okay, and then we went to the capital improvement fund. Okay, and the capital improvement fund, we've allocated money to, or the rate study, Hildebrand allocated money to the capital improvement fund on the shared costs that were identified by the city. And then in a letter from Sage, it was a little critical of us for not having a capital improvement plan. So then I went to the city engineer, and and Don Brown, who's in charge of the people that do the O&M on the collection system, and asked them if there was any burning issues that needed to be addressed immediately in the collection system. Both of them said no. Okay, and if you look at the cities, we were kind of criticized for not having anything in the capital budget for capital projects, but if you look at the city's capital improvements, they're for the State Street project, they're for the Dora Street project, they're for the improvements at the plant that have been identified, and there's really nothing for the collection system rehab other than rehab and street improvement projects.
Which is
So-
the same as the districts.
Yeah. So both of us have really no capital improvement money set aside other than we do have a, what is it, 600, I saw it here, 686,000 or whatever the number is. Capital reserve target is 660,311. And if we took everything that happened in the last 30 years, excluding the project that went on out there on North State Street that still needs to get hooked up someday, that is about 360,000 more than what happened in the last 30 years. So I don't know as we're rolling the dice that hard on ignoring that right now. We should, hopefully we're gonna have connection fees and increased revenue that will supplement that maybe, I don't know, we can see, can some of that money go into the capital improvement fund?
Some of which money?
Well, let's say we're going to get, we're gonna get about $700,000 from a project that's going to be paying here soon misstated, about 500,000 for a project that's gonna go here right away. They'll be paying the fees soon.
The connection fee?
Connection fees, yes,
Yes.
okay?
So connection fees can be used for expansion projects.
So connection fees are supposed to be used specifically to pay off that part of the bond, which was for the expansion, to provide service for those, and that's a Prop 218 thing. So that's a direct link, connection fees, paying for expansion or additional expansion. You can't vary your connection fees into other places from
Okay,
there.
well, so we put the connection fees in there.
But if you have the
Then we have
connection fees-
excess revenues
Exactly.
from our customers'
Yes,
billing.
yes.
And we put that,
Yes.
we'll be able to allocate some, I believe, to the capital reserve fund where we can get that up where we'll have $1 million or plus in there to be able to fund any kind of capital improvement that we would need to make. Am I off base there, Lindsay?
Yes, in addition to whatever available cash you have.
Yeah. So we'll be able to build up that capital, the capital reserve fund.
So if I could just summarize,
The capital reserve fund is kept at a one balance, but I mean, that is up to the board if you want to build up a reserve in that fund, or that, I guess there's a reserve, then you can do so, but the projections don't anticipate building up a reserve higher than the 656,000.
we
So you'll
were,
have unrestricted cash.
Okay.
we were talking about having this year to look at any possible capital improvement projects, or maybe none. And also to get through the purple pipe and the jail issue, so that we know what our costs or revenues will be and how that will change based on the outcome of those discussions, so that next year then we will have a better feel, except for of course, the LAFCO issue, which will be totally up in the air.
resolution for, can you say that again?
That spells all this out.
Oh, yes,
Resolution.
yes.
So my only, playing devil's advocate is that if you have to do a Prop 218, notification every year, you're incurring costs for that every year versus doing it one time for a 5-year span.
Plus you have to update your rate study, that will cost money also. Higher than.
So I mean, couldn't you go through the Prop 218 process with the 0%, 1% for the years after that, but not increase those rates? Like,
You
let's say.
cannot increase your rates without a 218 notice. If you increase your rates, you need to have one.
So what I'm saying is, do the Prop 218 for the 5 years, which are 4 rate
4%.
increases of 1% each, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't necessarily mean we have to do that if we see that we don't need to.
Oh, we can leave it.
Right,
the way it
yes,
is.
that's true. But the fear is the opposite, right? That these rate increases are so nominal, it's not even keeping up with inflation, that, you know, if in all likelihood you need a slightly higher one, you have to go through the 218 process again.
Right.
So some districts or some agencies will adopt a maximum rate increase, and then, as you're saying, that if the actual comes in better than expected, you can base your rate increase on what actually you need, but that won't exceed maximum. In this case, right, if you're adopting 1%, that's not even keeping up with inflation, and the risk is if you don't have all the information you need, and you're likely to need to come back for a higher than 1%, then you have to increase again. Having said all that, if you believe that we have all the information needed to ensure that this 1% really is what in all likelihood what we think, or at least about what we think is needed, then yeah, that makes sense. I think that's why the city is exactly why the city is adopting a 5 years, because they believe that the 5 years is really a good estimate of what their revenues and expenses are going to be, and that will be sufficient, for the next 5 years to meet their requirements.
Didn't we hire the consultant to take that into consideration, and the result is 4% over 5 years? So should we have confidence that they considered everything?
Well, that's what we're saying. We don't have the information on these 3 to 4 items. And, one thought was we could have 1 year's worth and then adopt 4 years' worth next year once we know the outcome of these things. But maybe we don't
Or
need to.
the other way that I had a discussion with an individual that said, you can adopt the 5 years, and if there needs to be a change, you do another 218 notice, and you change it.
That's what I feel most comfortable doing.
Yeah.
It may be the most prudent way of doing it without spending more money on, but I believe that when we get the answers to all these questions, I believe that we're going to need Wing C and Hildebrand in order to evaluate this for us.
Yeah.
And that will
so-
cost more money, but
You're back, right?
Yes,
Okay.
sorry.
Well, so you don't just single me out, Wing C, it's Dave too. Because every time we talk, she drops off.
No, if we did this every year based on waiting for information, it would never get done. I mean, these are things that have been going on for years and years and years. So adopt the 5 year, the 4% over 5 years. We've got it in place, and then, should any of this happen, we'll go with it and figure things out at that point. But I don't think we should stifle anything right now based on what may happen or that we just can't get answers for at this point.
Doug?
Real quickly too, you don't have to do all the increases. I mean, as I think it's been stated, if after year 2, the district decides, oh, we only need 0.5% this year, that doesn't require another rate setting.
Yeah. or Prop
Yeah,
218
but
notice.
they're worried that we need more.
If
Yeah,
it
but
goes
it-
the other way, that's.
Right, but if we need more, we're gonna need more, and then we're gonna have to do a whole rate study again,
Well, and-
regardless whether it's next year or 2 years
Yeah.
out.
And the
So,
thing is
adopt it.
if we needed more, then the city would have given all that information to the people that did this rate study.
Well,
And, right? I mean, if they,
no,
because they,
the problem
didn't they
is,
make accurate projections of what,
well, it's difficult, Teresa, because there's so many moving parts here. You know, the reason there was that great big blue thing on top of our bar chart was because the city had paid us our $4 million. That could happen next week. They could pay us the whole damn thing next week.
We don't
Okay,
know.
we don't know that. We've asked the question, we've sent emails, I've made phone calls. I haven't got a straight answer. So, you know, I believe that they probably will, because it's costing them 3% more for the money that they're not paying us than it would otherwise. If they pay us, then they're just paying the existing, the refinance money that they got, and there's a loan from the city that they probably haven't booked. And maybe they won't book until they pay us, but, you know, and we're gonna get $500,000 worth of capital improvement fees out of one project. If, you know, I wonder if the subdivision will get going. There's a subdivision that they're talking about 200 lots, so, you know, I think that will probably play out over 10 years. But, you know, I mean, I think there's a considerable amount of revenue that's going to come in that may come in over 4 years or may come over in the next 30 days. We don't know that.
well, I feel like that we paid experts to come up with this 5-year plan for us. And, you know, I'm gonna rely on the experts
But
and,
they can only do what numbers we give them, they can only use the numbers we give them.
yeah.
And that's the issue. Maybe it would be the best thing to do all 5 years. There's just a lot of uncertainty about what our expenses and revenues will be until we get some of this. And as you said, I mean, our plan is to get all of this determined in the next 10 months, but maybe we won't.
Oh, yeah, it could take years, like Teresa said, it could take a
The
while.
whole filing with LAFCO to detach, that was done 6 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah,
I spent an
yeah,
entire
I think
4
that
years on
the detachment
LAFCO.
issue is gonna, right, I mean, I think what it comes down to is whether you believe that some of these, issues will be resolved in the next 10 months or not. If you believe that it can be or likely will be, then it probably makes sense to have more information to adopt a longer multi-year rate increase. But if you believe that these issues won't be resolved, we'll be in the same place next year, then, or the year after that, then yeah, maybe it makes sense to adopt and then to amend each year once you have more information. But I do think there's a couple things that could swing things, you know, pretty greatly. One being an operating cost, whether that's legal fees because there's issues not solved, or the recycled water system. So if you have something that are $200,000-300,000, that does ultimately affect your coverage. And then, you know, you'll just likely have to do the ticketing process again. So yeah, I think it comes down to whether you believe you'll have much better information regarding these couple of items that have a material impact.
So the whole detachment thing, just put it aside, because we can't even worry about that.
That could be
That's years, that process is years. But the purple water, didn't the city put those numbers into their, I mean, didn't they project their numbers and include those in this rate study for that? Because
I
if they
don't
wouldn't,
think so.
well then why should we?
Well, we can't right now, but they will.
Right, I mean, what,
Yeah.
then if the city who's running the project and increasing their rates didn't do that, and our rates are based on the expenses that we pay the city, then how could we possibly? I mean, it seems like,
Well,
you see where I'm going with this?
I see what you're saying.
Maybe they're thinking it's so far down the line that it's not even gonna be affected this next 5 years.
They'll have operation and maintenance next year.
The fact is there'll be an increased operation and maintenance.
Well, then
But
why didn't they project it?
It may be that they didn't project it because to actually have the project online and completely operational, I think they're quite a few years away.
Because if they would
Okay,
have
so-
projected it, then we would
So-
have paid 50% of that, or whatever our ratio is for that, right? So it would have been automatically dumped into our column,
From-
had that all been included in there. So, see, if the city didn't include it, then my thought is they clearly not planning on having those expenses the next 5 years, or they did include it in there somewhere and we're just not aware of it with increasing certain costs here and there, and that's already been trickled down to us.
Could have very well been.
That would be good to know. I think that, I don't know, but that would be a good answer to know that could affect this decision. We just don't know. I suspect that it was taken out, but I'm not certain. And I just want to, I think the district just really has an obligation to plan as well as they can at this point, right? I mean, now that you have debt on your books, their obligation is to plan as well as possible. So yeah, ultimately, if the board feels that this is a feasible plan or a good plan, is the best that it can think is possible, then that makes sense. If the district board feels like you're going to have more information in the next 10 months, and there's key items that will be resolved, then maybe it makes sense to wait.
It doesn't hurt to wait, right?
Except the cost, as you said, if you do another 218, because if we wait if we just do 1 year and wait, we have to do another 218 notification, correct? And that's mailing costs, basically, and notifying costs, so we're talking,
And also updating the study, the rate study, it would have to be amended. It
And
could
possibly a new rate study or at least an amended to look at it
Yeah,
as
be
a
amended
current
at
plan.
least.
And then we have
Yeah, that
to
cost
be a joint
shouldn't be
venture.
that much because it literally would be, most of the work was done this summer with just understanding the system and all the expenses. You would just update a couple of line items and update the report accordingly.
I don't understand why, if it's a cost that will be incurred over the next 4 or 5 years, why it wasn't included by the city.
we don't know
I
that
don't
it was
know.
that.
What, I think we should just go ahead and if these major costs are introduced, in the next couple of years, then we'll just address them. But I think we went with the professionals, they put together their best with what information we had, and I think we should go ahead and go with it. I mean, we can always amend and redo. Even if we adopt it, we could amend the rate study and do another 218 if we find that we don't have enough.
Well, the city will have to do it too.
Yeah.
We'll both have to do it. We'll
So-
both have to pay for the rate study to be updated. We'll both have to do the Prop 218 again.
So it's shared
It's not-
costs again.
Yeah.
And we would have a reason to explain it too. I mean,
Then they'd have, yeah, they'd have to.
we would have something
explain.
to give an explanation why it was needed.
Yeah.
My only thought was that it may make us look a little more fiscally responsible if we did it for 1 year to get these questions answered, rather than adopting a 5-year plan and then having a 5% increase because of increased costs. And I think both arguments are very valid, I think.
Aren't we just following the city's example by approving the 5-year plan that was presented to us and going with it? And they're the ones who run everything,
But
right?
is that fiscally responsible?
Well, I
It is
certainly hope
because
so.
we put a lot of money into this study.
I certainly hope they're fiscally responsible.
We believe the study is good, it's just that we didn't give the consultant's information.
We didn't
you
have
know.
any information.
I know, so
Yeah.
we're not saying the study isn't good.
Well, we're being physically responsible though with what we have today, so we're not.
I'm not saying we're not being fiscally responsible, I'm just saying that from appearance, if we have to change it, and, you know, Wing C, here's a question that we really didn't run it by the last time we talked. If we accept this for 5 years, is there any kind of like footnote that it can be placed on this, that we are adopting this rate study from the recommendation of Hildebrand, but there are these questions, these issues that are pending that may affect our rates in the future? I mean,
Yeah.
maybe we just put a qualifier on there,
Sure.
you know?
And then the other thing, and two, if we need to increase rates 10% because of a purple pipe project, you will be telling the ratepayers directly, you are paying 10% more because of the purple pipe project, period, end of conversation. You will be paying 12% more because of detachment. At least it'll be A plus B equals C. You'll know exactly what it is. This is just covering costs, debt ratios, it's very minor, it'll, you know, nothing controversial. I mean, this is easy peasy, right? If there's things like that are,
I don't think Joe Public would appreciate knowing it.
I'd rather have those things separate and pay another $1,000 for the Prop 218 mailers to go out so that people know exactly what's going on and why the rates would increase, exactly what's causing it, you know?
Who has the jail revenue the last couple of years?
City.
Okay, so if that goes south for us, it's not gonna be a loss of revenue.
Changes nothing.
It
No.
wasn't, I
There will
mean,
be a change in the pot.
what
So
we've seen in the
that's-
report is how it
But-
currently is being.
So if we did win that one, then it would be an increased revenue, so
But
that wouldn't,
it's not significant, Candace.
Yeah, it's
It
not
it really
significant.
ends up being the net result at the end of the year is somewhere between $20,000 and $40,000 at best estimates, you know, when you take out the treatment costs and all the other operation and maintenance costs and everything else.
so that's
It's-
not
it's-
significant
it's not a sig-
as far as this is concerned.
It's really not significant.
We've been told.
The real issue on that is we have to determine, in my mind, we have to make it so that a customer, where the customer connects is whose customer it is, because I found numerous instances where the customer would be in the district and connect in the city and vice versa. So with boundary lines running through the center of the property. So you can't say if it's in the properties in the city limits, it's necessarily a city customer because it's actually connected in the district and vice versa. Pardini Appliance, the boundary line runs straight through his building where his appliance sales is a district customer and his appliance repair, which is the same building, is a city customer. So, you know, I found 5 or 6 of those that are, you know, so that's the ordinance lays everything out except for that. And we need to resolve that, and then, I don't think it's really, in my mind, to me, it's not a revenue issue, it's more of a clarity issue for the future.
So summarizing, the jail is sort of insignificant. The overlap area is probably past 5-year mark for.
Or at least one.
Yeah. So really, it's the purple pipe issue, and I think Teresa makes a good point that it would be an issue that we'd have to,
I think that's a real good point. If it
and everyone
changes
would
our
know.
rate structure, there'll be a 218 notice that due to added expense for purple water,
Yeah,
this is what it is.
easy to explain.
And we'd have to go down that
Yeah.
and change
Any
this.
issues, Wayne C?
No, no. Yeah, I mean, I think there's still the district is, when it takes over billing collecting, there will be changes or likely, the district will have more information in the next year. Some of the things that I was a little uncomfortable with in the past is that the amount that the district ends up paying the city fluctuates so much that, it'd be nice to understand where it could stabilize at, but, maybe that's just not gonna happen for a while, so.
And that was one thing I brought up during the presentation, that the city projected only a 3% and a 3.5% increase on costs. So I I think we should hold them to that if we're basing our rates on it and not let them, increase costs without good explanation more than that, right? Because there were two categories. One was 3, one was 3.5.
Yeah, and I think that as long as the district, really does keep managing their revenues and expenses, now it's just, it's got a new relationship with the bank and institution, so it has more of an obligation to be proactive about that, then that's great. Either way, it works, just needs to be revisited, and we really need to be able to look out, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and know that you've got the rating structure in place that is going to meet your coverage target.
Yeah.
So it's going to take active management.
Yeah, because we went from having this huge gap on this chart to now being, almost flush. We're down to, from 8 million, we're down to 700,000, so,
Yeah.
it's just.
That was a pipe dream.
It's just so variable and quickly, so.
Right. And not very much change really could take you down to being technical default of your rate covenant, right? So we just need to be able to manage that.
Yeah.
So do we, in order for us to move forward with the Prop 218 process, does it have to be a resolution, or can it just be a motion and a vote?
Motion and a vote, to begin the process. We're gonna have to amend the ordinance, as well. And I would suggest that the motion include adopting the rate study as amended as of today, because this is a different rate study than we were presented with last week.
Yes.
And even different from what I handed out tonight, so,
Right.
yeah.
So as of amended as of today's date.
Well, it doesn't include all the amendments. It doesn't, Hildebrand has the latest update, and he has said that once it's requested by Dave or Mark, he'll send the updated one.
I'm paying for 700,000.
Okay.
There's a year-end balance of 7 million.
And when you say this is Doug again, do the people who did the rate study, are they gonna prepare the 218 notice?
Or they
This is
should,
what I've been
yes.
told, they are? Okay.
It's our understanding.
But then
Is that right, Wayne C? You,
Yeah, they can help.
next
They can
year,
help.
it'll be the 3. That'll be back on track.
Because it's
they're
it's fairly
fairly
technical.
technical.
Isn't
So-
available cash, you're looking at restricted fund balance.
I'm looking at available cash.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
No, it'll be 2.04, or it'll be.
So if the motion would be to move forward with the Prop 218 process based on the rate study, the updated rate study that we have received.
We have discussed.
we've discussed, we haven't
that
actually
we've
received
discussed.
On March 16th.
But she
as of today's date.
They didn't book
And
anything.
And update our
on the settlement
ordinances.
fee in 2020.
Yeah, you can include that, you don't have to, I can just,
Just do it.
And we're gonna get another one in 20, okay, that'll go into
Yeah,
21.
right.
Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
The motion?
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out what the motion
Oh,
was.
Hey,
I
wait,
haven't actually made it, I'm just trying to figure out what it is.
Well,
What is the
Teresa's thinking, can I ask why in 2020 there was no settlement agreement revenue?
There was no what?
In the budget year 2020,
Line 11.
line 11, there's no settlement agreement revenue, but we received a payment in 19 for the million,
In October 2019.
in October of the $1,090,000.
Yeah, that would fall into the FY '20. I think he must have had it as booked in FY '19 and skipped FY '20, but
Oh,
yeah, you're right.
But then wouldn't we get one, wouldn't
No, you're right.
that one move to 20?
Yeah, and then 21 was,
or is it showing in the beginning year balance? Is that 7
It
million?
is, correct, right.
Okay.
It's showing as an FY '19 revenue,
Okay,
but we should think about that though, Ernie, because, sorry, I apologize, my kids are home from school. We should think about that because it is reflected in the cash balance as a booked from the FY '19. But was there $1 million paid in October 2018 or just October 2019?
or just
2019.
Yeah.
And there was 986,000 paid in
18.
18. But that's what I'm wondering, if that's included in the beginning year balance.
It is.
Okay,
It is.
so it's in the balance.
Okay, I did,
But no, but I think that it might, if it was received in October 2019, the million, then yes, it should be reflected as revenue.
Okay, so
And
that,
taken out of the cash balance.
the beginning year
Okay.
balance would be 6 million, and then, okay. So the bottom line's the same.
okay, that's just a question. That it was included somewhere.
Good question.
Okay, Teresa, go for it.
okay. So, make a motion, I will make the motion to begin the Prop 218 process based on the rate study that we discussed, the updated rate study as of today that we discussed, which projects the next 5 years.
I second.
And didn't we want to say we were gonna have a resolution reflecting that?
That follows the process.
And
It's an ordinance.
can we
Ordinance.
add to that, the qualifiers that I mentioned earlier, that with uncertainty in the purple pipe project, that,
I think that's included in, because she says with all
Okay.
of the changes that we discussed.
okay,
Yeah.
The motion reads, motion to begin the Prop 218 process based on the updated rate study as of 3/16/2020, which projects the next 5 years.
But, and the revisions discussed at the 3/16 in the meeting.
I did put the updated rate study as of today.
Okay, okay.
Does that satisfy?
And that can always be staff direction too,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that's just.
Would you want to put it in writing though?
It'd be tough.
Yeah, he asked that it be put in as a caveat to the rate study.
and
What do you think?
Wayne C. thought that
I think it
was
was
possible,
mentioned.
Yeah,
and
It's
is that
still there.
so.
acceptable, Doug?
In your motion?
I mean, is it acceptable to put a footnote that says something to the effect that the these rates are based on the best information available today. We have the Purple Pipe project and a few other issues that may have some impact. The Purple Pipe project and detachment that may have some impact on our revenues in the future.
In the next
Well,
5 years.
so that would change the letter Hildebrand's sending out, right? So we would have to communicate with Hildebrand exactly what we want in that letter.
I don't think it would need to be in the Prop 218 letter, because the Prop 218 notice is just telling them,
Okay.
this is what your rate's going to be increased to.
Okay,
It's not saying we may increase it again in 2 years or 5 years. It's just saying the standard, here's a notice, your rate, this is what your rates are, this is what we're gonna raise them to over the next 5-year period.
And this is how you, if you,
If you disagree.
How do you protest?
protest, thank you,
Yeah,
that was the
yeah.
word I lost all of a
And
sudden.
this is what you do to protest.
Right,
I don't think it's an appropriate place to put in a 218 notice that, you know, these may change next year or 2 years or 3 years.
why
But you can put it in
why
the
stir
rest-
up the beehive?
Well, you can put it in
okay,
your resolution.
okay. Maybe I'm just being overly cautious. I felt that
Let's have more people protest.
it would be
Yeah.
prudent to
Well, I think if you
bring
need
that
to,
to light to the public.
well, if you need to raise the rates again, it will be brought to light,
Okay,
right?
yeah,
So is the motion gonna remain the same?
okay.
So the- Yeah,
And I second it.
Julie seconded. So we need a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I
None.
would like to just add to that, that I worked with Mark on a rate, what everybody's rates will go to with this new thing, you know, based on how many HCFs. And if you guys would like that, I'll be glad to send it to you. Because I asked for it because I have customers in our subdivision asking. And this way I can show them exactly.
And the ordinance will also reflect that in a breakdown, right? We would change the one we have already. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll show what it's gonna be in general, not
But
per
when
household.
they get this,
Based
they're
on
going
the
to
water.
come to us and say, hey, what does this mean for me? And I just
well,
want
can that be included in our mailer that's sent out with the Prop 218?
And it'll be on the website
A
too.
projection of what your rates may be, or
Well,
or
the
the new
ordinance will be
rate?
sent out to everybody, not with the 218 notice, but the ordinance will be published before we vote on it, before you vote on it.
Okay.
But in order to eliminate some of the confusion, is it possible to send something along with the mailer that kind
Or-
of breaks down what those costs are gonna be? Like you just
So
mentioned.
okay, so I think we
Folks, are we
probably,
tying, are we tying Wing C up? Are we finished
yeah, we're
with
just talking
Wing
about
C's
ordinance
expertise,
now.
I believe?
Yeah, we're done with
oh,
C.
she's still there.
Wing C,
So did you decide to add a footnote or not the footnote? Because I'll follow up with
No,
the consultant and who's going to make the changes that we discussed.
It should be
No.
in the rate study.
I think there ought to be a footnote in there,
In the
but
rate study.
in the rate study. You know, just include it in the rate study at the bottom of it that there are some issues that are still unaddressed.
That's where I thought you meant
Yeah.
Yeah.
originally,
not
was
in
the
the
rate study.
Yeah.
So,
So,
yep,
and you've got a good handle on what they are.
Do you want to be specific or just general?
Do you want to say purple pipe and detachment, or do you?
I would say purple pipe and detachment.
yeah,
Okay.
And, well, that might, if anybody chooses to read this, it might get the detachment out there where people actually understand it. I never heard of detachment until I was on this board.
do we need a separate motion to update our ordinance to,
Direction to staff.
direction to staff? Okay. And then when you say we publish our ordinance before, because it has to be a public
Public hearing.
that's just published in the newspaper, right?
Yes.
So it's not a mailer or anything that goes out, it's just published in the newspaper, published on our website. And I think it's the only two, right? And that's the section that nobody reads of the newspaper,
Um,
right? So, do we have an obligation to communicate somehow? You know, what this rate structure change and tiny little increase will do to a
Isn't that the
person's
letter that
rates?
Candace was just talking about? Is that what you were just talking about?
It's
Yeah.
a chart.
It's a
that we put
chart.
together,
So
yeah.
Teresa, I would suggest that we work with Hildebrand on that public notice. And if he's not already planning on including that we could ask if that could be put in there. And it would be a graph showing
Chart,
high,
right?
medium, low usage.
Yeah.
And this is what.
That's what the ordinance has, it has a chart in
In
it.
the
Our
ordinance.
current ordinance has a chart.
I think the rate study actually shows.
The rate study
Yeah.
has a chart too.
Yeah, and it's all based on water
I had to
use.
figure it out.
So if you use this much, this is what you pay. If you use this much, this is what you
And
pay.
they just say high, medium, and low users for
Residential.
And
residential.
and if you guys come up with something you feel is more user-friendly, you know, we could ask if that would be put in there.
Well, it's actually pretty simple. You pay your base, and then you pay this much for every HCF you use after that.
And maybe an
Right.
explanation of 100 cubic feet is 700,
That helps.
748
People always
gallons.
understand that better.
Yeah.
Yeah, 148 gallons
But if they
is
call,
one, equals 100
but
cubic
if
feet.
they call their water company, they give it to you in HCF.
Oh, do they?
Which-
Just Regina, I think, though, right?
Oh,
Oh,
is
they
it
do
just,
HCF.
What are you guys reading gallons, Dave?
Pardon?
You guys reading gallons?
Yes,
Yes.
Regina, or Willow and Milby
Yeah.
do. Regina doesn't, that's where you get
So
it.
that can all be
And city
explained.
reads in 100.
I just want a
I
little
think
more
our staff-
explanation in our
Yeah.
public notice than just the legal gibberish.
Oh, no, and it has a breakdown too, that even the ordinance that we have now from 2011 has a breakdown of, well, what a
Yeah.
unit of water is, what 100 cubic feet of water is, so the breakdown of in the gallons, so people can understand it.
Okay, so I was still trying to cut Wayne C loose. Unless you
No,
wanna
she-
hang
I think
around
she
with
hung
this.
up.
Did you hang
No,
up?
I'm here, I'm here.
Oh,
Oh, if nobody has any more questions for Wayne C, why don't we let her get to her life?
Thank
you.
Wayne C, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good
Okay.
evening.
Bye. We're all homeschooling now. Yeah. We are all homeschooling. Okay, so we've, so direction to staff to update the ordinance, have you done that?
Direction to staff to update the ordinance.
Notify Hildebrand that we're going with the 5 years, we approved it. And I think,
She's gonna do that.
anything else?
We need to actually take a vote, did we do that?
We took a vote
Oh, okay,
and it passed.
all right.
There was no dissenters.
Prop
There's
218
no,
notice.
yeah, there's no vote on a
Oh,
direction to
to
staff.
Directing the staff to update the ordinance.
I think we're good.
Okay,
I think you can cut us loose too, right?
so no, I think we still have some more business here, Teresa, unfortunately. We have discussion and possible action, number 4, discussion and possible action regarding appointment of the Budget Ad Hoc Committee.
Okay.
And this is the one that I think you recommended, you two were on it?
Sounds good to me.
Staff recommendation.
We're the ones that have taken the beating here recently, so
You know the material.
I'm down with that.
we know the material.
So so what happens is you make the appointment of the 2 people who are on the ad hoc committee, and then the board as a whole votes to approve that appointment. So that's how the process works.
Okay,
Okay, so,
so I would make the proposal that Candace and I be the Budget Ad Hoc Committee.
okay, Candace, do you accept
Are
that?
you,
Is that, you okay with that? Okay. So
so now,
I move to confirm Chair Whip and Director Horsley to be on that committee. Is there, I second, thank you.
okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Good.
Just gratitude.
Okay, now you
Okay, now, we have number 5, closed session. You,
Did anybody agree?
direction has been given to staff to proceed. And it is now 7:57 and we are adjourning.